Hey there, and welcome back to Culturally Sound. I have the pleasure of sitting with James Church of Robot Mascot, Amazon bestselling book, Investable Entrepreneur. James, we had an interesting conversation just on the front end. What has your journey been like? How did you get where you are? And let's talk about what you're excited about.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. Wow. Where do you want me to start? Like, I can start right back
Hey,
at the beginning. Yeah.
bring it right back to
Right.
diapers.
So,
Come
so
on.
look, I mean, I've always loved communication, designing things, visual communication, language, that kind of thing. So that's always been my passion. Studied design, went into brand and marketing, led me into advertising, all of those great things. And then always from, I remember like a moment just before going off to uni, sitting in the pub with my dad and him going, what do you actually want from life? Like, what are you going to do after this degree? Like, what's your career? And I was like, I want to run my own business one day. I've always just remember wanting to do that. So it's
Mhm.
always been a passion to be an entrepreneur. It's always been a goal of mine to do something in and around design and communication. So that naturally led me to creating my first sort of companies and my first freelancing work, and all of that stuff was all in brand marketing, advertising, those sorts of things. And then I came on board at Robot Mascot as a co-founder to the founder Nick, who had set this up as a brand communications agency. Came on board, joined him, and we noticed after about 2.5, 3 years a pivot an opportunity within the investment space.
Mhm.
Founders were terrible at explaining their great ideas to investors. They focused on the wrong things. So we noticed something called the zombie stare, this sort of blank glazed over look that investors would give when founders would excitedly tell them about their idea, thinking it's the best thing since sliced bread,
Right.
and then investors would just kind of glaze over like a zombie. So
Mhm.
we were like, this needs to be solved. Like, there's millions of great ideas out there being pitched, and the investors haven't got a clue what they're talking about.
Right.
We can solve this. We've got the skills to do this. We know nothing about fundraising. Never had other than watching Dragon's Den and Shark Tank and all of that. That was our only experience, like most founders.
Right.
So we spent a load of time researching, talking to investors, understanding what this zombie stare meant and how we might fix it. And ultimately, all of that research led to us developing a process and a formula that was very successful with clients, was getting much greater success rate of meetings and investment. So we decided to sort of formalize that in my book, Investable Entrepreneur. And that's really that publishing that book really signals the completion of the pivot from brand communication agency to investor communication agency, and really focusing down on this niche, which we've now become known as the sort of market leaders and recommended by all sorts of big guns in the investment space. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, that's a quick fire sort of
That's great.
description of the journey
That
from start to where I am now.
what was your like what gave you the inspiration or the confidence to believe that you were the person to do this? Like what allowed you, because I mean we don't just wake up and say, I want to write an Amazon bestseller about how to get creators and founders in front of investors and actually nail it. Like that's an ominous task.
Yeah, I think it was two things. One was realizing that we had hit on something, that
Mhm.
we had created a system where our work was delivering results, and having founders raising capital was super exciting, and having investors in our network look at our work and go, wow, you've got something here. This is like, yeah, top few percent of pitches I receive. If you can package that up into a repeatable something, you've got a really interesting business in a exciting niche. So those two things gave me real confidence that we'd hit on something. And then it was like, right, how do I formalize this? And
Mhm.
that came from sort of almost a chance encounter, although these things never are as much chance as you think. It was
Yeah.
someone we'd got to know introduced us to someone else who happened to be a 5-time uh, on his fifth multi-million pound business. Each one of those businesses that he'd launched with a book as the accompanying kind of marketing collateral that expressed the system and process and methodology that he took clients through in these consultancies.
Hmm.
And he saw what we were doing at Robot Mascot, was really excited by it, and shocked at how small we were at the time. He thought we were so much bigger than we were with all of
Right.
the sort of, because we came from brand and marketing, our front end collateral looked and sounded great.
Sure.
And he thought we were much bigger than we were. So he was just like taken aback, jumped on board as a strategic advisor, took some shares in the company, and he was the one who really pushed to say, look, do the book, you've got it in you. We'll give you a sort of a process you can follow to help you work it out. I know a great publisher that helps with these things, and the
Yeah.
rest is history. But it was
Yeah.
just having that, that being, I think the most brave part for us, I think, was being comfortable with a niche. I think
Mm.
so many business owners are scared to niche because they feel like they're turning away potential work, especially when you're starting out.
Hmm.
And I think for us, the idea of niching made us so much more relevant to the audience we were pitching to, gave us
Hmm.
this hyper focus, but it's also actually helped us expand the business because people say, you're really good at this, pitching for investment in, startup investment. I run a VC fund. Could you do my pitch so I can go and raise money? Because out of anyone out there who can write my pitch, you're probably the best people to do it, because you kind of do it for founders. It can't be too much of a stretch to do it for the VC fund or for a property development project or for an alternative investment opportunity. So we ended up getting all of this other work
Yeah.
that we weren't even after because we'd defined our niche. And
Well,
I
I mean,
think that was one of the most powerful things we learned on our journey, was actually to not be scared of the niche, embrace the niche. And that just positions you in a way that then you have this ripple effect outwards, where people kind of make their own connections in their mind of going, well, if you're good at that, you can definitely do what I'm looking for. And you go, yeah, all right,
it's
we can figure that
kind of
out.
kind of funny how like other people's confidence in their space layers over, your lack of confidence in something that's obscure that you never would have thought of that you'd be successful in, right?
Yeah.
Like, because they're excited, they have belief in you. Yeah, yeah, sure, yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, if this guy who's done 5 multi-million pound businesses says you've got what it takes, you can do it, and I'm going to
Yeah,
mentor you through it, it's kind of hard not to get a bit of a kick from that, and kind of suddenly get this self-confidence that perhaps you didn't have before. It was
for
also
sure.
during Trump's first administration as well, and whenever that kind of voice in your mind sort of come to me going, you don't know what you do, you can't write a book on this, what you're talking about, I'd go, well, Trump can say whatever he wants, and no one seems to disagree. He's still like, most of America still agree with him. They vote for him,
Right,
so I can say
right.
whatever I want, and it's going to be fine. So sometimes you just need to have those little things to stop that bit in your
That's
brain that says you're not good enough. You can't do this.
for sure.
And yeah, that was my little thing at the time. Was like, well, if
That's
Trump can do it, I can.
that's some solid logic. I love that. So, I mean, those are the highs. Talk to me about the lows. Where were the challenges? Where was the trenches? Where was the thing that you thought, nope, we're done, we're through. This isn't going forward. We're over it. Let's move on to the next thing.
I mean, look, how long have you got? I think there's
Yeah.
probably, in reality, anyone who's been in business longer than 5 minutes will know
Right.
that it's really easy to talk on shows like this about all the good times and paint this picture of entrepreneurship's easy. You just write a
Yeah.
book and then you're like, yeah, you loads of
Do
business.
it. Yeah, that's
The
right.
reality is clearly, we all know, is not the same. So there's always been moments. I think probably the most significant was making a mistake in the way we hired and scaled.
Mm,
So I think we did two things wrong. One was well, there was two moments. Like, one was hiring the
yeah,
wrong people at the wrong time. And
right.
we had built a large network of experts to deliver the projects, but they were all on a contracted basis. And they followed our systems and processes, and they were trained, but they were not employed. And that worked really well because it gave us capacity, and it gave us various expertise we could bring into various different projects. And then we had the great idea to say, well, hang on, we're spending all of this on contracted work. Employees are going to be half the cost. That was the theory. So we brought the employees on, but suddenly what happened, some of them were people who were contractors with us.
Yeah.
And suddenly what happens is when you go from being a contractor to an employee, the motivation to get the work done changes because you've got
Mm,
your paycheck, you've got
mm,
that safety net, you know you're getting, regardless of your output, you know you're getting that at the end of the month.
mhm.
Whereas when you're a contractor, the sooner you do the work, the quicker you raise your invoice and the sooner you get paid. And we've
Mm,
always had a policy of with our contractors, you raise the invoice, you get paid within a week. None of this
mm.
30-day nonsense. You get paid within the week. So then they always prioritize our work over everybody else's because we pay so well. But that
Well, that
changed as soon as we brought in employees
right.
because they had their paycheck. Everyone was going at half the pace. We also then were getting projects and going, well, we want to utilize the employees' capacity, so then we ended up with timescales doubling for our clients because we were sort of front loaded and we couldn't layer up work over the top by having multiple contractors. It was all going to one or two employees and it was
Mm,
bottlenecking. So
mm.
that nearly killed us because we were suddenly so inefficient and weren't delivering such good work and something we call like a remarkable budget.
Yep.
Part of what we do is to have a remarkable budget in the business. And if you can deliver great work on time, that is worth 10% bonus on your marketing spend. And we always, we average 9.6, 9.7 out of 10 as a feedback score. And that's stuff we saw that starting to slip and we're like,
Right.
this is all going wrong. We're
Yep.
damaging our reputation. And
Mhm.
so that was one moment where things started getting pretty dicey and what we thought was going to save us money actually ended up costing us a lot. And then the second time was trying to scale too quick. Going Facebook ads are out with they're smashing the Facebook and Meta ads. They're going great guns. Let's pump a load of cash into that.
Yep.
Failing to really realize the conversion timeline and
Yeah.
how long it would take to recoup that spend, and we just increased them too rapidly too quickly and it created massive cash flow pressures in the business because we were
Mm,
spending all the money on the ads but we weren't realizing revenue from it for 4 to 6 months down the line.
right.
And then a lot of our clients might pay on a payment plan, so it's not like they're even 3 or 4 months later we've sort of covered all our costs and then we're talking profits. So we hadn't quite realized that naively as business owners. We just went, we're getting a good ROI, let's start spending more money on that platform,
Yep.
and just spent everything we had to get that growth and reach
Mhm.
that next milestone. And yeah, it nearly backfired big time. So yeah, I mean they're two of the big moments, but there's loads of little ones every
Of course.
week, I would say.
No, I mean, like those are fantastic, right? And I appreciate your generosity in sharing this because vulnerability isn't always easy around the mistakes, right? But it's the lessons and the victories to survive. It's that scar tissue that sort of brings you from good to great. And without those trials and tribulations, you don't really recognize what you have, right? So I mean, that's really cool. The the changes that you took from those lessons and how you've recrafted and re-strategized, what does that look like from what you were doing then to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think some of it was just going back to basics and going back to what had always worked.
Mm-hmm.
And others were just being more mindful of the importance of cash flow modeling when making big decisions, bringing in processes within the business to make slightly more informed decisions, involving your accountant on some of these decisions and kind of talking it through and really thinking about if this doesn't work out, what's the backup plan? So we're not in a state of this investment hasn't worked out and now we're panicking and making, because you have like a survival mode, don't you? And then you make silly decisions that aren't very entrepreneurial. When
Mm-hmm.
when you're free and you're feeling you're feeling inspired, you make really great decisions. But when you're panicking about whether or not you can pay the next invoice that comes through, your kind of caveman survival brain kicks in and you make really silly poor decisions. so
Yes.
so having looking at the downside of if we're going to spend X amount on ads, growing our ads, or Y on employing a new person, if that doesn't work out and that ends up being a complete sunken cost, can the business afford it? And if it can't afford it, what are the mechanisms we might use to recoup that over time? Are the directors all happy to sign a personal guarantee on an overdraft to cover the shortfall for a period of time if we do need to, if that does work out really badly?
Mhm,
And we're being much more conscious, I think, now, 10 years on in business, much more conscious about the decisions we make, and the impact they might have, because we've been there before and been burnt and been in that survival mode,
mhm.
that we're much more conscious of those things. So more, it's more awareness. It's just experience, isn't it? But it's
It,
just more awareness of the decisions you make and the impact that they might have on the downside. You're always
yeah.
hoping for the upside as an entrepreneur. You're always like looking at this could increase our business by X or increase
Yeah.
profit by Y, but often it doesn't quite pan out exactly how you think. And yeah, always have a plan for what to do if the downside happens.
Well, I mean, that's why we get into it, right? To all be rich millionaires with no concerns and all the freedom, right? And you quickly learn that that's not the case. It's sort of
Yeah.
been romanticized, and you've sort of been sold down the river a little bit, but
Mhm.
it's all exciting nonetheless. Is there an aspect that has you just jump out of bed in the morning, and your feet hit the floor and you're just ready to go? What fires you up the most about what you're doing with your clients, or
Yeah.
what's coming down the pipe? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think the thing that excites me most is the sort of marketing side of things and the growth
Mm,
side. Like, love the work that we do for our clients, but for me, it's the pushing the brand out there, the personal brand, the doing this kind of thing,
right on.
and the yeah, just sort of strategizing how we're going to grow the business, how we're going to add in new parallel products that we can cross sell to clients, or all of that kind of stuff. That
Hmm.
strategic growth stuff is the bit that really excites me.
Hmm.
That's the fun bit for me, coming from a marketing and background, and that kind of that having that foundation. That's the bit that excites me. Yeah, looking at those opportunities.
And what's working for you today in this environment? I mean, we've got we I was talking with a guest recently where, back in 95, we didn't have the internet, right? We didn't have social networks, we didn't have AI, we had none of that. And it was TV ads, billboards, some yellow pages, and then fast forward 10 years and internet's introduced. Now we've got search engines and that kind of stuff. Fast forward another 10 years and you've got socials. Fast forward another 5 years and you've got the introduction of AI. Now today, it's wild. Like, what are you focusing on that's
Yeah.
working well for you, that you're trying and is working, and what have you done that has just sort of gone in the bin?
Yeah, so for us, it's been the key person of influence strategy, which
Mm,
I'm not going to take credit for. It was learned off of Daniel Priestley, that this
right on.
advisor that I brought in. He's got an incredible program around this, but that strategy of picking a niche, becoming the thought leader in that niche, has
Mhm,
been the absolute game changer for us. And then building around that what we call a perfect repeatable week. So having regular things that deliver results consistently, and have now done so for 6 years, right?
mm,
Without, it's now just so automated, we don't break a sweat, and we know we can meet our minimum baseline, right?
okay.
So that's thing. So that is essentially a strategy that looks to funnel leads into a weekly strategy session where I deliver a 90-minute knowledge based session around our strategy, our approach, go through the key things I talk about in my book, as an educational thing that people can turn up to. They invest a bit of time, they get a load of knowledge, and hopefully open their eyes as to what they need to do to successfully raise capital. Regularly, without fail, we know exactly what numbers we're going to hit more or less every week, in terms of, we know exactly every year, without fail. When you look at the year's sessions, 49% of people who book into the session will turn up to the session. 30% of people in the session will express interest to work with you afterwards. It's that every year, same percentages every year. So we know that we just need to fill more people into those sessions, and it will grow with more business. So we've got this perfect repeatable week that we run every single week, every week of the year. And that top funnel stuff is filled from three key channels really. One is meta ads. It works has consistently worked really well for us. The
Is
other is
that
SEO. Go on.
like, you know what? I'm gonna let you finish, and
Yeah.
I'll come back to it.
The other
SEO.
is SEO, and we started investing in that about 3 years ago, and it's now really starting to deliver really good ROI for
Okay.
us. So that's really we're really starting to see the needle move on that, and that's quickly becoming our leading channel. And then the other is partnerships. We've got great partnerships with really incredible brokers and VC funds and crowdfunding platforms and accelerators who all kind of just know if a client has the problem we solve, we need to send it to Robot Mascot, and those
Yeah.
three things deliver about a third of our revenues, and
Wow.
it really is quite evenly split across all three of them.
Wow.
So yeah, that's just been that constant having that constant repeatable week, and we just know we need to get more warm leads into that weekly session, and then that's gonna there's going to be X% of them. And the secret with that session is to give the knowledge for 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes, and then switch and say, I'm now going to tell you how we implement all of this for our
Hmm.
clients. This is your
Hmm.
opportunity to leave. You don't have to stay for this bit. So people don't feel like they're being forced into a sales pitch.
Yeah.
And then you pitch your service. You'd give them the pricing. You tell them what it costs as a packaged service,
Hmm.
or you give them a range of what your consultancy might cost,
Hmm.
and then get them to express interest. And I just do it by saying, if you want to take a conversation forward, just type number one into the chat now, the numeral one into the chat, and we'll follow up with an email to book a call, and we'll take the conversation forward. So now,
Hmm.
instead of having 50 one-to-one introductory calls every week, I'm doing one
Right.
session with 50 people, and then
Right.
there's X number at the end that express interest and want know that the price is right, the strategy is what they need. I'm pretty much ready to buy. I just need to find the details. So then
Yeah.
my one-to-one time is spent with qualified, really qualified leads. And that
Warm leads to the
approach
familiar.
has, and obviously as we've scaled, it's gone from those one-to-one calls being with, other members of salespeople in the team or whatever. So, but that strategy is really what took off, that really changed our business, and it's just repeating the same thing again and again and again every week,
Yeah.
and it delivers growth, not
Yeah.
being too radical with these things.
Now, so like a couple of things pop to mind. One, iteration, right? Don't fix what's not broke, but at the same time, when you're talking 40% of who attends, 30% engages, have you tried different approaches, techniques to sort of improve those numbers, and they just always land there?
They
Or
always seem, yeah. We've tried lots of different things, and it always seems you think you've cracked something, and because a few
yeah,
weeks the numbers tick up, and then by the end of
yeah,
the year it's the same figures.
same
It's more,
average.
but yeah,
uh
we've tried. Is it 2 hour session? Is it half? Is it a 1 hour, 1.5 hour session? Is an hour long enough for them to really
yeah,
kind of, because there is a idea that there needs to be some kind of commitment from the other side. They need to
right,
invest if they really want to work with you. They need to invest time in finding out if you're the right fit. So you don't want to make it too
sure,
short and too easy to
yeah,
access.
yeah,
We've tried putting a price on the tickets. Now that would increase attendance, but not by as much as we thought it would. If you paid a ticket to go, you would expect a much higher turnout rate. It was
right,
slightly higher, but the expression of interest rate was the same.
huh,
So the number of people, the expression of interest rate fell. So the people who wanted to buy were always coming to the sessions. When people were paying for it, they were more likely to turn up, but they weren't necessarily the people ready to buy our services. Do you see what I mean? Yeah,
yeah, it's an interesting inversion there, because you wouldn't
yeah.
that's not what you'd expect. But and
No,
then
well, that's planned. So
Yeah,
that's
no kidding.
it wasn't
No
what I
kidding.
would expect either. But and it might be different for different businesses, right? But you have
Sure.
to measure these things and test these things and see, do they work or not, or is it just, does the theory work for you,
Of,
or
of
does it not
course.
work? Um,
So the next one was, split in thirds evenly. You've got social ads, SEO, and relationships. Now, I would always assume that relationships would perform the best, but that's outside looking in. I was shocked to hear that SEO is leading when everybody that I've talked to, SEO is going down.
mm,
AEO, introduction of AI. I know that ChatGPT and all of the various LLMs aren't nearly competing with Google yet, but it's on the rise. And
yeah.
it's singular recommendations, or I mean, two, three on the outside, but that's it. Whereas with Google, you got the AI recommendation, and then you got the sponsored, and then you got the organic. So it's harder to get that SEO
Mm.
mechanism functional. And then meta ads, like everyone that I'm talking to recently has been saying that it is so hard to get those to click. For you,
Mm.
how why do you think you're the unicorn? Is there anything
Mm.
that you're doing that
Um,
you're familiar with that's unique
yeah,
for you?
I
Or
don't think that. I think we've noticed a dip in traffic through SEO, and that's but what seems to be the case is the traffic that's being lost is the long tail, how do I
yeah,
do X stuff,
okay,
right? And that's all
okay,
going to ChatGPT. What we've
yeah,
focused on in the last 24 months is high intent product based searches. So when people, the sorts of and remember, we're in a micro niche, right? We're not
yeah, sure,
selling marketing services. We're selling pitch deck for investment, pitch deck for my seed round, pitch deck for my VC round or my Series A
mm,
round. So
mm,
we've been creating high intent content for people that are looking for pitch deck services for X, or and they're the things that are really paying off. They're driving, and we're even finding that we're starting to get leads now where it's, oh, I've contacted you because ChatGPT has recommended you.
no kidding.
Yeah, we've had 3 or 4 of those. One of them's converted last week. Our first conversion from you were recommended by ChatGPT.
Are you
Um,
intentionally indexing for LLMs,
no,
or
no,
wow,
that is purely down to spending the last 10 years, well, 6 to 7 years,
yeah,
showing up as a key
yeah,
person of influence in our niche.
wild,
So we have the book. We have all the book has been turned into, every chapter of the book has been turned into 3 or 4 blog posts. So all of that content is online and indexable. And what was ChatGPT trained on? Well, all of that content, right?
yes, yes,
So because we appear well in searches, because we are considered and to be the leading provider of these services in our micro niche,
hmm
there's not really, let's be honest, there's not really much else Google and ChatGPT can recommend. We don't
right,
have, there are other competitors, but much smaller, much less well known, more individual consultants. So because we've done that, it goes back to that I believe it goes back to that micro niching strategy of going, we are going to be the experts on this micro niche, and then it means that the LMMs are picking us up and
hmm
see us as maybe it's because we're called Robot Mascot as well. They think we're their brother.
this was it, yeah,
It could be as simple as that. But they're like, these guys are good. I
yeah,
like them.
familial,
Yeah. Who knows how that thing works? But yeah, it's working, right? It's
yeah,
that
right,
become a leader in your niche, and
yeah,
whether it's Google or whether it's ChatGPT or the others. Perplexity is another one that's been recommending us.
hmm
So they pick it up. They pick up on those signals,
outstanding.
even the bots. So yeah, it's working well for us. I don't know why it's different for us. On Meta, I would agree. We've had a tough quarter, or tough 6 months since
Yeah,
January. We've
right,
we've found it. really difficult to maintain. Like at one point, our cost per result tripled.
Oof.
Um, we then made some changes. It went down to better than it performed before, and we thought we cracked it,
Yeah.
awesome. And then
Yeah.
what? 3 weeks later, it's increasing again,
Mm.
and we're struggling to keep it back down. And it just, yeah, it does seem like it's less reliable than it used to be,
So
in terms of results.
some of the feedback that I've gotten has been it's relative to spend. You have to hit a certain threshold in order to maintain or continue to increase to maintain, and then drop it way back down, wait a cycle, and then increase it again. The algorithm tends to like
Right.
that, which would make sense. But just when you said that it was so evenly split, that floored me.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, super super happy for you that that is the case. The relationship side of things. Let's look at that. What is what does that look like for you? How do you develop new relationships? I saw a post the other day where it said, if I were to start all over again today, I'd learn um, LLM and how to create agentic agents, and I'd go deep in coding. And one of the comments was, I would learn how to host a dinner party and introduce people to each other and how to build relationships and really practice that, because it seems to be a
Yeah.
forgotten thing. What's working for you?
Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm terrible at the whole networking thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, as much as I present myself, I almost, this whole James Church the author thing is almost like a character. It's almost like
Sure.
my Slim Shady. Like in reality, if you were to meet me in a networking event, I'd be the guy looking at his drink in the corner, shifting his feet. Put me on a stage so people know I'm the guy.
Yeah.
This weird character performs,
Right.
and then everyone comes up to me at the end because they want to talk to me because I'm the guy on stage that gave the quote unquote excellent talk. That's what they
Sure.
tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, this KPI, this key person of influence kind of strategy, this becoming an author that was recommended to me by Daniel Priestley, the advisor I mentioned, that really works for me because it kind of, I was able to talk about something I knew really well that I also knew other people didn't know much about. So they were always kind of blown away by what I had to say.
Right.
And as I started to get that reaction, I realized grew this confidence, this kind of persona that
Mm,
I would able to stand on this stage, and people wouldn't be heckling me and shouting down, and because when you're the person on the stage or the person on the podcast or whatever it may be, people remember you. They want to come
mm,
and talk to you. So I didn't have to do the kind of thing I hate, which is going up and introducing myself and trying to weave my way into a conversation and have small talk. I'm
mm,
terrible at that stuff.
mm,
I hate it. Um, but it did mean people would come to me and ask questions and and I'd be able to give insights, and they'd build that rapport with me, and they would think of me when they needed to have, uh, when someone needed what I did, they would always remember that conversation, and we'd have regular catch ups or whatever, and that kind of thing. So that helped me break down that barrier that I hated. So that's what works for me: the podcasting, the speaking, that kind of thing. Much more confident now. I mean, I wasn't. I am
sure.
now. Like
Yeah.
it
We
took
all
it
start
a
somewhere.
couple of years to
Sure.
learn that and get
Yeah.
that confidence. But for now, that's what works for me is being a lot of our sort of what we would relationship partnership leads come via things like this. In 6 months time you might be talking to a client that's like, I'm thinking I've got this opportunity, I need some working capital to scale, and you go, I know a guy who can help you with the raising of the funding for that.
You got it.
That's how this works. So yeah, that's what's working for me, and that's why it delivers. The other thing to say is, like, these podcasts are for, like, last forever. This is about
Right.
digitizing my knowledge, right? It's a
Hmm.
bit, like, you can still listen to the Beatles today. They don't need to exist, and so it's this podcast about the number of people that have contacted us saying, I heard you on so and so's podcast, or
Hmm.
that kind of thing. Or you were meant. So we've had some people that you were mentioned by so and so on someone else's podcast. Again,
Right.
because we're that. Oh, it comes up in conversation that you should, like I've just said, you should read Daniel Priestley's book, Key Person of Influence, because that's what really inspired me.
course.
people are going to end up contacting his business going, I heard you on this podcast.
Mhm.
So these sorts of things, just really, this key person of influence is the thing that really unlocked all of this for us.
Fantastic. And I mean, I hope that any of our audience does check out that
Mm.
book and reach out to Daniel, because I mean, if he can do it for you, he can do it for them, right? That's kind of that idea. And what this podcast is all about is just, man, it's such a lonely adventure when you're trying to do it your own, right? And having solutions and tips and tricks on what worked and what didn't, that's all part of it. What Heading into tomorrow and what's ahead of you, what's new, what's on the horizon, what's coming at you, what are you excited about, how are you facing it, what does all that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, the future is, I think the future is always how do we continue to scale? How do we keep, but as based on our previous experiences, how do we do it in a more sustainable way as a
Sure.
consultancy without sort of,
Yeah.
but it's like, how do we scale? What are the opportunities in front of us? So we're just, we're starting to really formalize our, I talked about all these parallel sort of services that come our way because we're the experts in this. Someone sees the crossover. Well, we've got enough projects in those areas now that we're starting to formalize those as kind of, rather than sort of if and when they become a core part of our proposition, and we expand from, yes, our core will always be investment readiness, but sort of push that out more into, actually, we're a pitch agency
Hmm.
that specializes in pitching all sorts of things to investors, whether that be property or venture capital funds or private equity or some kind of alternative investment, because we've done all those things and we've done all those things successfully. So we're starting to work on that, and that's really exciting, for us to kind of look at these ways of, I think what my thing is right now is, and I was inspired again by another entrepreneur, I can't remember the name of now, but he was talking about how he's in hospitality, right? So
Hmm.
nothing like ours and us, but how he scaled his business through sort of these parallel opportunities. So he was talking about how he has a soft play center, because he started life as a kids entertainer, and he thought, if I buy the soft play center, I can get all of the entertaining work that goes with that. So he bought this soft play center, and then he
Yeah.
realized he had a kitchen of staff, and the soft play center was empty during the week because everyone was at school.
Right.
But he had to employ his staff for the odd people that were there with their toddlers that wanted a cup of coffee or and a cake. So he needed to
Sure.
have those people regardless of how full the venue was. He was like, how can I
Hmm.
utilize that team that I have?
Hmm.
Oh,
Hmm.
well, I've got some space in this venue. Let's add a daycare center, because then they can do all the catering for the daycare center. So you started thinking about, how can I better utilize my assets
Yeah.
to generate more revenues with different business models layer it over the top, and that's what really inspiring me right now, is how can we think more, less on growth means more leads to the same service, and just, but growth can mean, how can we better utilize the current assets and resources we have,
Hmm.
with a small change could unlock a huge, and not create a huge additional cost base, like this efficient scaling model of sort of knowing the supply chain, looking at parallel options, that kind of thing. That's what's inspiring me right now anyway.
One of the first things that anytime that I consult with any of my clients, is one of the first things that I ask about is what their retention marketing strategy is. And it occurs to me, what do you have a retention market? Like, how do people use you again and again? Because I mean, once they're funded and they're going off and doing their business, it's one and done. Like, outside looking in, what does that look like to you?
No, you're 100% right. And if you've got the answer to that, I'm all in, because I've been scratching my head for a very long time as to
Right.
what that retention looks like. We are still, one and done. It's we prepare the materials, and then we have repeat customers that come back to us for their next round of funding if they raise
For
another
sure.
round of funding. But
Okay.
there's no, a great business model would be to have this consulting package, and then sort of cross sell at the end some kind of recurring revenue, something or other, that
Right.
retains those clients.
Right.
great for SEO agencies, great for meta. There's a setup cost, and then there's a retainer.
Sure.
We yet to find what that is for us. So you said if someone you said earlier about how someone said if I started my entrepreneurial career again, I would learn how to code an LLM, and the other person said, oh, I would learn how to host a dinner party.
Yeah.
If I was to start again, I would probably choose an entirely different business model, if I'm honest, one that has that repeatable. I would think about it extremely differently and think
Yeah.
about what that repeatable business model would look like, and that
Right.
might mean we never moved into the investment space at all.
Interesting.
But we did, because we weren't really think about that at the time, and now
Right.
we're experts in this space, and it works out well for us. But we know we could be 10 times bigger by now had we built a business model around whatever this recurring revenue could
Reciprocation.
be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So because although it's expensive to acquire a client, and it'd be much better to keep them than it would have to start again every month. And
You
also
got it.
the heart rate as well. Knowing that you've got this baseline of clients that love you and pay you every month.
Of course.
So there's less feast and famine. So yeah, if I'm honest, that would be the one thing I would love to change, and love to find a solution to.
Mhm, mhm.
It's not going to impact us. It doesn't, it would just be the icing on the cake of what we've built. And yeah, if I was to start again, if I was to sell Robot Mascot to someone tomorrow and go, right, I'm reinvesting this into a new venture, I'd
Mhm.
start a business model and then think, what problem can I solve that works with this business model?
Right.
Rather
Right.
than what am I passionate about and how can I solve that problem and make money out of it, which I
That's
think how
wild.
most founders start, right? And
It
then you
is.
realize that you've chosen to focus on something that isn't the best height. It's a great consultancy that delivers great profits and you a great lifestyle, but it hasn't got that. It's missing that element that would be able to take you to that next tier of entrepreneurship. And
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
I would, with the experience I have, I'd start with the end in mind much more.
And I mean, yeah, like how does that process work? So, I mean, you've sold this business, you're starting over again. Now you're trying to use that cash to start your own business, but you want to get funding. How do you scale your business using someone else's capital? What is like how does that work?
So, I mean, if you've exited your business and you therefore have a pot of cash to
Yeah.
invest, the first thing would be to work with the business model. What's the problem I'm solving?
Yeah.
There's four elements, right? What's the meaningful problem that I can solve that people will
Mhm,
pay to solve? What's my solution to that problem, and how do I reverse engineer that around a business model that's scalable? So has that repeating subscription element to it.
mhm.
And if you can't create, this is what I'd be advising all my clients, which I didn't do myself to end up where I am today. But if you can't create, because I didn't know this stuff then,
Of
right?
course.
But if you can't create a satisfactory solution to solve the problem that isn't under a scalable business model that can be repeatable, that clients can pay over the long term, then you probably should start again with that. What problem can I solve, and what solution is there to that problem? It's not just I could create this solution and then, oh, how am I going to charge for it? Those two
Mhm.
things are what's the business model is very much an intrinsic part of what that solution is. And if it's not a repeatable, scalable business model, then you probably start again. Then it's how then it's kind of going, well, I've got the solution to the problem, the business model works.
Mhm,
Is there a big enough market for it,
mhm,
or is it too niche?
mhm,
Or what is my niche? Do I need to
mhm.
niche this down if it's too broad to make sure that I've got a focus and a message that cuts through in the market? So then it's
What's
like,
too
what's the
broad?
market? Yeah. What's too
What's too
broad?
broad?
So for me, I don't know, what example should we use? Let's just say I was building another sort of marketing agency, because that's essentially
Sure.
what we are.
Sure.
Too broad would be probably where we started with Robot Mascot, which is we're a full service marketing agency that
Yeah.
can work across all of these, any sector, right?
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
going, how do we niche that down? Do we focus on a particular skill set? Do we actually say we're a full service marketing agency for the hospitality sector, or specifically for hospitality businesses that have between 5 to 20 venues?
Hmm.
Or, what's your niche? Where can you stand out and say that, this is where our process, our solution really works? So if you think about, obviously, again, that sort of depends on the business model, because we now turn that through to, it's a dating app. Tinder don't really need to worry about too much of a niche. Although maybe they have got a niche, the sorts that, if you think about it, Tinder's for a very different type of client than Plenty of
Sure
Fish
is.
or
Yeah.
Bumble, or so they've gone, what type of profile, what type of niche are we after? It may not feel
Mhm.
like it because it's like, anyone could use Tinder, but really their whole brand and positioning is around a particular type of audience, right?
Yeah.
So
And I
it's
think
kind of,
design. Yeah.
and is that audience big enough, right? So if you're, we've had some clients where they've tried to niche, but that niche isn't going to be big enough to
Right.
scale the business to the point that they think. But so that's the third thing. And then the fourth is the unit economics. This is what I'm going to need to charge to deliver it, and are there enough people willing to pay for it? And
Hmm.
that was the big, well, certainly with our business, that's what we were always told. You can't charge startups money for stuff. Um, but what was, they're all eating tins of beans. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
no, that's all the startups that are in London's startup scene, going to all of the free networking events at various different banks, because they're
Yes.
looking for the free drink and the free pizza.
Right.
But actually, there is a huge number of startups that are the people that have exited their business, and they've got 200K to put down on a developing, doing the pre-seed round, if you like, themselves.
Hmm.
You've got people that are running a consultancy and are spinning out a piece of technology and want to turn that into a high scale, that they've developed for themselves, and want to spin it out as a high scale platform.
Hmm.
They have capital, they have wealth that they want to invest in this new venture, and we realize that there's a huge niche there in terms of, that is our target audience, that's our profile, is the people that are experienced enough to know it's best to get an expert in rather than try and do it all yourself, and have the
Hmm.
capital to fund it. So that was our realization on that bit, is that, is there, we've got this business model, but is there the people out there who will be willing to buy it? Can they afford what you're offering?
Hmm.
For us, we felt it was a yes, and everyone, but that just further niched our niche. It's not all startups; it's a very different particular type of founder with a startup.
Hmm.
But as long as you feel you can access that niche, and it's a big enough niche and easy enough to access through sales and marketing campaigns, and if you tick all those four boxes, you've got yourself something you can go and raise some funding for, and then you start. Then you need to start the real work of preparing the funding round, business plan, financial projections, pitch materials, to go and pitch this to investors. And that's where we come in, is then help shape, through the development of those assets, help further refine those four critical areas,
Hmm.
further refine those through a business plan, financial model, to demonstrate to an investor that all of those things do indeed stack up, and that there's a high scale opportunity here. And ideally, our clients have already got some kind of wait list or use case, or something that, experience from if you've been using this technology that you've built for yourself and your existing agency, and you're spinning it out, it works. The MVP is already built, so you've got something to show, as progress.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's ultimately what it comes down to, is if you can tick those four boxes and then formalize it in these critical fundraising assets, as I talk about, the business plan, the financials, the pitch, you can get yourself some capital to leverage other people's cash to grow your venture, because it's a win-win for both
And,
parties.
and so I guess there's sort of a you know how does that relationship shape where they've you've got the founder with the idea. What's have you seen any ludicrous setups or anything that you looked at and said, that just isn't going to work, and then it you got your teeth into it, shaped it, and it actually took off? Has that been an
Yeah,
experience of yours?
yeah. There's a few examples of that. I think there's Yeah, some are down to the revenue model, and just um, looking at their ideal. Often there's the ideal of like, this is what I want. I'm trying to solve this problem and I'm trying to do it in this way. And then give you an example. It was a single parent community that was going to
Mhm.
charge membership fees to its customers. No, it wasn't. It was going to be a free. It was going to be a free platform, but then there would be ad revenues, and there would be. They were hoping that they would be able to sort of run some events and charge tickets and stuff for the events, and that's all well and good. And we looked at it and we modelled it out and went, look, let's be honest. The number of people you're going to have on this platform for the ad revenue to generate anywhere near what an investor would want to fund the development of this is just never going to work. You need to start thinking about subscriptions, and you need to start thinking about, yes, you'd love this to be free, but you need to be able to start putting some stuff behind a paywall. Otherwise, it's
Mhm.
never going to scale. It's never going to work and invest it. And your vision is never going to become a reality. So those who can afford to pay for everything should be paying for everything. And those that can't, it's just the way the world works. They're going to have to just take the free tier, as much as you would love to be everyone have access to all of this great stuff you're building. Same
Mhm.
with a recruitment platform. Want to recruiting for small SMEs, they still rely on just kind of postcards in the window because these platforms like Total Jobs are too expensive for them and they yield really terrible results. I want to solve
Right.
that problem by making a free to use jobs platform that I charge. I earn my revenues through advertising. Great.
Mhm.
But the scale you have to hit for that model to work, there's a reason why Total Jobs isn't free and just relies on advertising, is because even at that scale, it doesn't cover their costs.
Right.
The revenues from it is not great enough. So talking with them about building in a revenue, a subscription tier, and yes, it's against the vision and the big vision of making this a free to use recruitment platform that completely disrupts the market. It still is for 90% of the users, but if you can get 10% subscribing for some additional insights and content and data, or whatever it may be, you've doubled your revenues in overnight. So you only need to charge a small number of people there, and it's just sort of those sorts of things are where we sort of start to add huge value, I think, to our clients. Others have been like piece of technology that was a piece of automation for cybersecurity, doing a lot of the
Right.
tasks that a lot of the cybersecurity teams in big banks would do,
Yep.
automating it. Great, but they were our competitor is Cisco and these other big cybersecurity companies, and we're going to take them down, and everyone's going to use us. Great.
Yes.
Find me the head of cybersecurity at Barclays or HSBC or wherever
Right.
that's going
Right.
to risk their career on switching off Cisco and going with this startup,
Right.
right? It's just not. You're not going to go to market. Your go-to-market strategy is all wrong. And then it was about how do we redefine the product. So maybe you could make it a plug-in to Cisco
Right.
and those systems. So you plug it and it automates what's already there rather than replace it. And his
Brilliant.
eyes kind of beamed. He went, "Wow, actually," and it seems simple now, but in the time it wasn't. And it's like, yes, because then I was like, and then that delivers an exit strategy. Because if you're automating a load of stuff for these other providers, they're going to want to acquire you so they have that competitive advantage and have that automation software native to their platform. And it means that their competitors, you can't go and create something similar to bolt onto their competitors, and that gives
You
them a
got it.
big market advantage. So
Yep.
so it's often those kind of looking at it from the outside. We often say that our secret weapon isn't that we're that clever about any of this stuff, it's just that we're not you. We're not in the
Yeah.
bubble of your own startup and your own mind, and you can
Right.
just look at it from the outside as a fresh pair of eyes and go, well, that doesn't work. Why didn't you do this? Oh
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so obvious. Now you've said it, but I was so caught up in building this amazing thing that I
Yes.
lost sight of how I'm actually going to get this to market and how I'm actually going to make money out of it. So I was so caught up in the vision that I forgot to look at the business model. And I think that's the sense check we give, and that's a reason why we've had clients that have IPO'd two companies. They've built and sold three or four businesses, and they come to us to help them with their next funding round for their next venture because they've learned through that process that having an external viewpoint to kick the tires on what you're building before you take it to market is invaluable. Yeah, of course
Hmm.
they could write a business plan and produce a financial model themselves,
Hmm.
but they want to get that external viewpoint to kick the tires on it and just make sure that they're not kind of going about it in the wrong way because they've got caught up in their own vision. So even the most experienced entrepreneurs do it. The experienced ones just realize that they do it and bring people in to stop them doing it. That's the only difference. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, one of the that was one of the big revelations for me actually when we brought in this advisor that I spoke about. You know, it wasn't all about sales and marketing. It was also how do you operate a business, and I regularly now go because you have to do it regularly. I've found, but every so often, once a year maybe now, but more regularly earlier in the journey, just sit down and just record everything you do every day and say, and I did that, I did this, I did that. And you go, actually, I could get someone else to do these things. Start. And then once you've decided that someone else can do those things, just start recording. The next time you do that task, just take a note of every step you've taken. And if you end up with a document that, you know, if you feel like a chimp could action it, jump on Upwork and find someone who can do that for in the Philippines for, you know, for a few quid an hour and they think they're being paid like kings. So, you know, you've got a global talent pool, and if you make stuff really easy for people to copy and do it the way you do it with a simple process document, you can leverage so much time that you can then use on high value tasks that only you can do, rather than the things that could be done by others. And actually, just to finish on that, the guy that I've been speaking about, this 5 times, you know, multi-million business owner, one of the things you know, he said to me was, and I don't think I'm going to offend him by saying this in public, one of the things he said to me was look, the reason that I've been so successful is I'm not good at anything. I'm a great visionary. I come up with great ideas, but I can't build the businesses I want. I can't do the books or the sales or the build the website or create the social media. I have to get people in to do that stuff. And I realized early on in my journey that I couldn't do these things, and I wanted to bring in a team of people around me. And entrepreneurship's a team sport. And when I brought in people around me, we accelerated quickly, and that enabled me to step back and then move on to the next business and then the next one, because I was never operationally involved in any of the businesses I've set up. I've always just been the front man, the leader, the visionary. But I've always brought in a team of practitioners and experts and tacticians under me that been able to actually do all the work and build the actual business. And that again, that was really insightful for me as an early entrepreneur. You know, early in my career to go, yeah, because most people start building a business from a skill set they have, certainly in the world of consultancy. So then trying to transition out of being the doer is really difficult when it's all based around your knowledge and your expertise and how you've approached this, and you feel only you know, clients only trust me to deliver this work. It's a, you know, it's so difficult to break that cycle. Yeah. Oh, wow. um Creative. um can I say like emotionally intelligent? I think I can sort of grasp people quite well. I kind of read the room, I think. And ambitious. Relentless. That's four. Sorry. But yeah, that is probably the most driving one, is that relentlessness to achieve that ambition of never happy with what I've got. Always, since I can remember, actually, everything's just always pushed. There's always been another level. There's always been, I want to be the first to do this, or yeah, there's always been like an ambition, sort of competitive nature. So I think that's probably the driving one. A good question, because when I get to that point, I'm never happy. So I want to push to the. I think if I'm going to be philosophical about it, to be honest, success to me is a happy family. If my family are happy, if I'm happy, and yes, I have this ambition with the business and to push it as far as I can. Um, but actually, something happened to me when about 4 or 5 years into this business, my mother-in-law suddenly got cancer out of the blue, and a week later, she wasn't with us anymore. And that was a massive shock. It all happened over the Christmas period as well. She was diagnosed Christmas Eve and she died New Year's Eve. And we had a 6-month-old baby, and it was our first kid, and everyone was so excited to have the first Christmas with him, and this just landed, and it was the worst time of my life. And such a big shock, because I realized in that moment that I had been not present with my 6-month old, that he was on the playmat, but I was checking my phone for emails and checking the socials, and making sure I was responding to this WhatsApp from this client, because, I don't want to lose their business. And I wasn't really present with that, with my 6-month old. And I realized that I'd missed the first 6 months of his life. And from that moment, my perspective on things completely changed. And it's like, the business is 9 till 6, 9 till 5, 9 till 6, let's be honest. And then it's family time, dinner, kids, put the kids to bed. And then if I need to do some work, it's all after they're in bed, but I'm present in those, or I try to be as present as I can in those moments. All the, never work at a weekend since then, never opened my laptop on a weekend, always been present at the weekends. So yeah, my ambition was somewhat, my ambition is still there, but it's somewhat muted. It's kind of like, there are more important things in life. Life is short. And yes, I want to achieve these goals and I want to have this success in business, but actually I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and I want to go out, and I want my kids to have memories of everything. So yeah, it was a big shock to me as a, younger man in my early 30s. Actually, I was 30, and had just spent my whole life just building this business, my whole working life since I was 18, building businesses and having that drive and that ambition. And then it suddenly was like, actually, that's not what is important to me anymore. So yeah, I think success to me is being able to afford a life that means I can have wonderful moments and memories with my kids and my family. Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. I think, maybe once they've left home, it will revert again. It'll be like they're off at uni, and then I'm in a different stage in my life again. But yeah, I think for now there's that balance to be struck. Mm. I think the thing I'm most afraid of is losing the business, right? Because it's, you're always vulnerable, right? Like if we push too hard, or if we make a wrong decision, the whole thing could come crashing down. And then I know I'd be okay, and I've got some reserves, and I'd be able to set something else up. But there's always that fear as an entrepreneur: what happens if it all comes crashing down? And I said my ambition is the happy family, the that sort of being able to give the kids whatever, everything they want and create all these great memories. What if I can't do that anymore? What if I fail? What if we can no longer have the things that we have, and the kids don't have, and they're not going to care. Like, you can grow up in a caravan, or you can grow up in a mansion, and as long as your parents are around you and love you, you've had a happy childhood. No one who's had loving parents has said, "Oh, my childhood was crap," because of their surroundings. But it matters to me for some reason. So yeah, I think my biggest fear. So I think the fear isn't necessarily losing the business. I think it's what the business enables me to have with my children, the freedom that I have with my children. So I think that's probably the actual fear, is losing that freedom I have with the family that I've spent so long building a business to be able to afford, and the risk I've taken to get there. But yeah, if it all suddenly disappeared and I wasn't able to do that for them, for me it would matter. It wouldn't matter a moment to them. I know that, as long as I was there, but it matters to me for some reason. So yeah, I think that's my biggest fear. Is yeah, losing everything I've spent my whole life, since I was 18, building. I don't know why that would happen and why I'm, but I guess it always could. There's no reason to think that would happen, but you hear those stories of it all just suddenly comes. There's a change in the economy, something outside of your control, and it all just overnight comes crashing down. So yeah, not really. No, no, I don't think I do. I guess if I, um, I think part of my personality, is probably the mantra that was drilled into me by my father, which was, a job worth doing is worth doing well, which says a lot, I think, about me never being happy and always wanting to move on to the next step and always pushing for the next goal. A job worth doing is worth doing well. And I guess I was, yeah, brought up on that mantra. And it's not one I've used on my kids yet, but it certainly, I think, has affected me in the way I approach things, and do things. And okay is never good enough. Like, maybe that's why we always get 9.6, 9.7 out of 10 as a feedback score. So we're never happy with okay. We're always pushing for, if people are saying, like, giving us average scores, we're like, lots of people would be happy with that. We never are. We're always pushing for, how can we make this service better? How can we deliver a better result to our clients? So yeah, we're never happy with mediocre. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the morning routine with kids, it does become very much a routine, doesn't it? It's the getting them up, getting them dressed, getting them breakfast, getting them off to school. So then I can sit down, and then the first sort of 15, 20 minutes is on LinkedIn, put a post out there, comment on some stuff and kind of do that. And then it's to the desk, check the emails, crack on with the workload for the day, do all the things that I want to get done, get crack through the massive list of tasks that's never ending. But yeah, I'm not really one for repetitive routine. I mean, I know I talked about the perfect repeatable week. That's a bit different because it's part of the strategy. But my own personal life, I'm not one for repetitive kind of always go and do this at this time. And even in the evenings. The evenings is just if I'm not working because I'm a sucker for going back to work for a few hours after the kids are in bed. I can't help myself. But if I'm not working, and I do try and limit that to just a couple of nights a week because otherwise my wife would soon get fed up with me. But I do limit it. But yeah, if I'm not, it's just sort of spending time with her and just having some time together. Just we love just binging stuff on Netflix and that kind of thing. Nothing revolutionary. No kind of. It's just switch off, unwind, relax, try and switch off from everything and start again the next day. So yeah. Yeah. I'm quite simple, aren't I? No. I don't really buy. I don't really have the superheroes that I particularly. I never. I was always into sport, football. So growing up, it was always like the Norwich City football stars. Because I mean, can you call them stars? They play for Norwich City, but they were stars to me when I was a kid. So that was really that was they were role models, I suppose. But yeah, never really into any of that kind of idolizing. The closest that I've got is kind of yeah, business people. The people that I respect that have been through that journey. There's a handful of people where I just kind of live by some of the sort of strategies that they follow. But yeah, beyond that, I'm quite a simple guy. I don't really buy into all of that stuff. Don't have quotes on walls. Don't have morning routines. Don't have idols. I just be me and just crack on doing what I can do to be better for myself. I think. Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for having me. It's been great, and I have to say you're very good at getting things out of people. I felt very comfortable saying all sorts of things that I probably didn't expect to say on a podcast. So yeah, no, thanks for having me, and thanks for yeah having these open conversations. They're great. Lovely. Thank you. Cheers.